What's up, book nerds? My name is Tara, and today I'm going to talk about two hats that I wear professionally, how those sometimes conflict, and how they've shaped me as a reader and a reviewer. So these two hats are that of Tara as an English teacher and Tara as a librarian. And even though on the surface, the average member of the general public may think that those are very similar, I find sometimes as a member of both academic communities that sometimes the values of each conflict a little bit, and they conflict in my soul sometimes. But also on the flip side, they help me be better at each other. So I'm a better librarian because I was an English teacher, and I'm a better English teacher because I was a librarian. So I'll start with my role as an English teacher. I took a lot of AP classes, AP English classes in high school, basically had an English major in college to be a major in middle grades, language arts, and I taught 6th and 7th grade language arts for 3 years. And English teaching is my first love. So I really enjoy literary criticism. I enjoy reading the classics. I enjoy reading literary fiction, and I really enjoy reading these with a group of people and going in to do a close reading of those and analyzing the text. In a similar vein, I also like writing about literature. I think that's a huge part of what led me to be a blogger, and I think I tend to be more articulate in the written word than in this particular format. I'm working on that. But you know, I think that my English teacher self is really a big fan of pushing students and people to read more complex texts, and especially texts outside of the time period in which they live. Because for an English teacher, the reason that we're reading these texts are not just for enjoyment. They are to pass on our culture from generation to generation. And through looking at texts from 100, 200, 2,000 years ago, we are able to get a greater understanding about how humans have changed and how they've stayed the same over time. Whether that culture is your own culture or other cultures or just the culture of humans of the world, that's such a valuable piece of living in the present. So the English teacher world is definitely one of reading critically, reading closely, analyzing, breaking stuff down, multiple readings, and reading those usually under the guidance of a facilitator or a mentor who is seen as sort of an expert in the text, though I would debate that because a lot of really good English teachers kind of go in with a little more open understanding of that. But to help guide people through and give them those tools when they don't possess them themselves. On the flip side, I also wear my librarian hat. So when I was a school teacher, I decided that I wanted to become a school librarian. I went back and got my master's in library and information science and became a school librarian for 3 years. And now that I am an educator, I'm in the School of Education, I'm still academically straddling both fields. So that librarian piece is always within me, and it definitely affects how I talk about being an English teacher. So in the world of library science, especially school libraries, we have a little more like, oh, reading is good reading. Read for pleasure, read for fun, have access to the books. Take a stack of books home and set up under your window and read and explore worlds, and it's just fabulous. So the library world is one where I interacted a lot with readers who read very different things from what I read. The goal was to make reading something that was accessible and pleasant, and the library a place where they wanted to be. So reading as a librarian, we focused on reading popular fiction or whatever the people are looking to read, reading for information, and reading for pleasure. We also privilege the social aspects of reading, so running things like book clubs or giving recommendations to students. And we also, through that, do try to get kids to read more diverse things or to point them to things that they might not have otherwise thought about. Reader's advisory involves a lot of that, still pushing readers outside of their comfort zone or introducing them to new things. But, you know, it's more at what we're trying to meet the need of a patron. I'm not trying to teach them anything or go into the nitty gritty of the book. I'm just giving them the book and letting them go off and read it independently. So these two parts of me really come together in who I am as a reader and a reviewer and a teacher and an academic, because I get stuck sometimes when I'm in English teacher conversations about reading critically, and it's like, well, sometimes shouldn't we just read for pleasure and not sit and think about like all the gender stereotypes that are present in this story. I know I get really wrapped up in that, but at the same time, if someone's only reading things strictly for pleasure, I kind of want to push them and say, like, do you realize that that's problematic? Don't you want to think about how, like, maybe that relationship in that book isn't healthy, or what it means that this author has written these people to behave this way? And I really want people to learn that and not just read blindly without really being able to critically think about and dissect what they're reading, even if sometimes they choose to turn that off, because you can't always live in that world of ripping apart everything you read. I know, because sometimes I feel like I live in that world. So this affects me a lot when I read conversations in the blogging community or hear things on BookTube about the whole like read critically debate. I think it's a little bit more complex than that. I want to, like, I have those parts of me that want to push people to read more critically, but I also have the librarian part of me that says, people are reading, man, it's all good. Like, BookTube is not the people you need to be complaining about that to. We want to get everybody reading, and we want to give people time to kind of come to their conclusions about how they want to read on their own. So when I'm reviewing books, I try to review them in a way that shows that I have read them critically, or that discusses the things that I've read critically. But I also have to remember that my audience hasn't always done that and doesn't always want that. Especially in the book blogosphere, I feel like a lot of people are more emotional reviewers. And so if someone like me comes in and is like, here's all the things that are wrong with this book, but I gave it a B+, they don't really understand that. So I have to keep my audience in mind. And that's not to say that my audience is stupid. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying my audience, and I read books in a very different way. And sometimes I'm like a cold, detached old lady. But on the flip side, sometimes I rave about something and I say, you know what, this book is problematic, and I don't care, because I just want to read things for fun. My whole world is not ripping things apart. So the reason I made this video is to just kind of explain how I can consider myself to be such a critical reader, but why I don't really expect anyone else to be a critical reader, why I totally celebrate people reading what they want to read, but then at the same time can have that conflicting feeling of still wanting them to maybe push themselves a little bit harder. It's like I can't ever get out of this loop that I live in as the teacher and the librarian, but I don't feel like I really have to do that. I mean, that's my life. We all feel conflicted on things. It's never going to be perfect. As long as I realize that, and, you know, on some days I might feel a little more one way than the other. And in the end, it's my opinions, it's my channel, and it's my blog, and the little bits of that are going to come out in various places, and my readers tend to understand. So if any of you guys, my viewers, feel like you also wear conflicting hats, or just two hats that change who you are from day to day as a reader and a reviewer, I'd be interested to hear your stories about that. Or if you are a teacher or are a librarian, how that affects how you BookTube. I think that all of it is very interesting, because we can't separate our reading lives from our lives as professionals and the other things that we do outside of just reading for fun and reading for BookTube. So I think that's all I have to say for today. I may follow up with this if I find that I was not able to articulate everything I wanted to articulate, even though I did have little notes over here. But that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.